All right. Get here. All right. Hey, welcome everyone to our fifth episode of this webinar series. Nolan and I are very excited to do our high school football. We finally got to football here in St. Louis, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the development of character. Again, I'm Jake Worrell. I'm the Executive Director of Game Changer Athletes. This is my colleague Nolan. He's the Director of Development. And we're super excited to get rolling here on our episode 5. And I'm pleased to introduce our panelists today. We're missing one, Malach. He had the COVID vaccine yesterday, and he's experiencing all the symptoms right now. So keep him in your thoughts and your prayers here as he gets better. But we have Coach Steve Stahl here, retired football coach with St. Charles West. I'm excited to have him on. Thanks for being here, Steve. And Coach Kyle Wagner, recently head coach of Rittner football, and then just accepted the job at Sykeston High School. So very exciting time for Coach Kyle there. Today we're going to go through a variety of different questions, all leading around leadership, character development, what each program looks like on a day-to-day basis. And how these guys are changing the culture and how they're making an impact in the lives of these young men on the football field. Before we jump into our program, there are a few things I wanted to run through. First, just wanted to thank Kyle and Steve for being here. I know it's a busy time, especially with the school districts going through all the COVID stuff right now. But thank you for being here. Today's webinar will be available tomorrow on our social media links and our website. As soon as it's downloaded, you'll be able to find it. We'll post a social media link out to be able to rewatch the recording of some great content that's going to be said today to help grow your guys' programs. If we have any coaches or parents or athletes watching, to be able to improve and take your program to the next level. Next, we'd love to hear from you during today's presentation, all you guys that are listening. We have some questions that we're going to be going through with Kyle and Steve. But if you do have a question, please feel free to put it in the comments below in the chat. I'll see it. If we have enough time toward the end, I'll be sure to ask Coach Kyle and Coach Steve those questions. If we can't get to those questions, we'll be sure to follow up afterwards and get those questions answered.
Jake, can I ask you a question before we go?
Yeah.
I seemingly have lost you guys on my screen here with the video. Can you help me how to get that back? I'm sorry to take up time here on the air, but
you're good. We see you.
I can't see you guys for some reason. So
is it hidden on one of your tabs?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what I did here. I had some up in the corner I tried to get rid of, and I was gone.
Oh, yeah. Probably just close the tab down.
Yeah, maybe try at the bottom of your computer there. You can still hear us though, right?
Oh yeah, I can hear. I can still go this way. If you can see me, then we're all right.
I see you. We're good. We'll keep rolling here. Next, for those of you that are watching and listening, if you guys could just take a minute, if you're watching on your computers or your tablets or an iPhone, if you guys could go find us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search Game Changer Athletes. Give us a follow and a like. That way we'd be able to help grow our pages and get our brand out there a little bit more in the St. Louis area. Lastly, I want to thank our sponsor for this webinar, Wes Kuhn. He's a good buddy of mine. He sponsored our first webinar last time, and he loved the impact that Game Changer Athletes is making in the St. Louis area. Wes Kuhn owns his own State Farm agency. He's been owned it for about 5 years now. And I used to work for Wes for a brief amount of time. He's a good friend of mine. Obviously, State Farm has all your needs for home, auto, life insurance, as well as financial services like checking and savings account, credit and debit cards. I have all my stuff, all my insurance stuff with Wes. and he takes very good care of my family and my household, anything that I have. So if those of you that are listening, if you ever have any questions on insurance, home and auto questions, or you just want to receive a free quote from Wes, give him a call. He'd love to hear from you guys. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Kyle, Steve, you guys still there?
Yes.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and start out. Hey, Steve and Kyle, can you guys, obviously you guys have had a relationship in the past through football, kind of walk us through where you guys first met and how that relationship started.
So actually, my first teaching job was in St. Charles West, and so at the time, Coach Stahl and St. Charles West had a really good program. One of their better teams, I would say, over the last probably 15 or 20 years. There were some great leaders on that team, and so I taught some of those guys, and I was actually coaching over at Hazelwood West, and our season had wrapped up because we weren't very good that year. And so I came over and I got to be a part of practice and really, I mean, I was on the sideline for a semifinal game that Coach coached in against Cape, I believe, Cape Girardeau, if I'm not mistaken, or Cape Central maybe. So I got to be in the locker room and I gave a speech one of those times as well. And it was a good experience, and I got to learn a lot from Coach Stahl and just the way to carry yourself and everything.
Awesome. Very good. Steve, anything you want to add on that from when you first met Kyle back in the day?
Yeah, Kyle was just, he was teaching over there, and I happened to come in before practice one day, and we were introduced to each other and struck up a friendship and got to talking some football. And it's just amazing the things that we can all learn from each other when we start talking about whether it's football or, relations with kids, or what it might be. We can all learn from each other. And to me, that's been one of the big things for me coaching is, taking the opportunity to learn from other people. Because if you just know what you know, you don't know a whole lot. It's been great. I'm glad to see Kyle go on to the success he's had too.
Thanks.
Awesome. So I had zero intention of making this webinar date actually on the NFL draft day. I find that out today, so coincidence. So I briefly wanted to see if you guys had any former players or even maybe friends that could be draft eligible this year or potentially in the draft. Anyone you may know of, we'd love to hear about it.
I actually have my former nose tackle, Ronnie Perkins, who played at Oklahoma. It's a big time player, man. And he's a kid that I've known since he was about 8 or 9 years old when he was telling us that he wanted to go to the NFL. So it's pretty cool, that he's actually got that right there on the horizon. And he's slated to be either a first round pick or early second round pick. So yeah, I'm excited to see, his dreams come to fruition, man. And he put the work in. He's one of those kids that was always, bigger and better than everybody, and he still worked harder than everybody. So he deserves it, man, and he's overcome a lot, and I'm excited just to see him, have an opportunity to go and play the game that he loves and get paid a lot for it. So
that's awesome. When does the draft start?
7, right when we
7.
started. Perfect timing.
So you'll know when he gets drafted, huh? You got it pulled up on your other screen.
Yeah, I got it pulled up on my phone. So I'll know if he gets picked up. Right now, it's looking like, just from what I know from behind the scenes, that he'll be a second round guy. So I might be able to catch it tomorrow. So we'll see. But if he goes early and I get excited, then you'll know why.
All right, yeah, share it with us. We'd love to know. Steve, do you know anyone that could be drafted this year?
Not currently, no. We had a couple of players from St. Charles West that wound up going to professional ranks, as to training camps and things like that years past, recently.
That's cool. That's awesome. Well, we'll go ahead and jump into our first question here. We got about 12 to 13 questions. So, Malach was going to lead us off, but Steve, if you want to lead us off here, the question is, talk to us about your program, Steve, more for you. Tell us a little bit about, St. Charles West when you spent so much time there. Some ups and downs and some challenges you faced, and just kind of your overall experience there at St. Charles West.
Okay, I will say that I had a great experience at St. Charles West from the standpoint when I started my coaching career at St. Charles High in 1971. I served as a sophomore coach there for 5 years before I moved over to St. Charles West. And St. Charles West opened because the enrollment projections in St. Charles City were projecting a high school enrollment of over 3,000 students by the early 80s. Well, as things turned out in St. Charles, the schools never got any bigger than like around a 2,400 total enrollment. So we had 2 high schools around 1,200 in the district. And I was fortunate enough to be able to start the program from scratch. We had the first team and got the brand new equipment. Everything was brand spanking new. An advantage that I did have starting up there was the fact that we had a really good junior league program at St. Charles at that time. We had a JFL program. We also had the boys club that were producing football players for both St. Charles High and St. Charles West. So it was a good situation to start my career as a head coach. And it was nice from the standpoint that I wasn't walking into a situation where there had been another head coach or a number of head coaches before me. So the attitude and the approach and everything that I wanted to have in our football program was started from scratch. I was able to initiate that. That was a huge advantage for me. And then here's what we started off with, just a sophomore team. And then the following year, we played a varsity schedule with just sophomores and juniors. And then 3 years into it, we had our first varsity team with seniors. And so from there on, it was just a matter of establishing what we wanted for the kids and establishing a style of play and a way of doing things that players were familiar with and understood, and coach the heck out of it. And so I think that from that standpoint, plus we didn't have much staff turnover over the years, so we kept our staff together for a long time. So it was just a good way to get the program off on the right foot.
That's awesome. Thanks, Steve. Kyle, you want to just tell us a little bit about, the adjustment this year, being at Rittner and dealing with the COVID season and things like that, just those ups and downs. You want to talk a little bit about that briefly?
Yeah. So when I took over the program had been struggling just a little bit recently. And so one of the big struggles that we had was academics. And anybody that is dealing with a kid at home during this COVID thing, that academics has been tough even on the kids that do well academically. And so for me, the first thing I wanted to do was to come in and establish that academics was important to our program. And so I hit the ground running. I assigned multiple coaches to my student athletes, and they were tasked with reaching out pretty much every week. And I was lucky that I had coaches that were invested and they believed in coaching guys through more than just the game. And so we ended up having success before the season with 33 guys actually making honor roll, which was incredible. I haven't been a part of any program, before that, and I've been a part of some really good programs that we had that many students that were on that academic list. So we had victories before the season, and I told my guys as we were working that we will start by having small victories, and sometimes that didn't show, on the field because there was so much that we had to do to get to the point that we needed to be at to be great. So once we got to the season, man, we ended up going 1-3 in the alternate fall season, but we averaged the most points of all teams in the spring.
Wow.
So offensively, we were, doing well. And a lot of the issues we had on the field were just issues that over time, I believe they'll get better because we had a new culture. We weren't really with them, which was kind of crazy trying to install that culture and not really being with them to go through it. But man, my kids, they played their hearts out and they had to play through a rough situation knowing that I was going to be leaving, and they still went out and they played, and they were in every single game late in the game. And so, my message to them was to put in the work this off season and learn how to finish. And that they can gain those wins. Those wins would come from the work that they put in this off season, and then spending time with each other, and genuinely caring about the guys that are around you. So yeah, man, I was privileged and blessed to coach those guys this season, and I got a few of my guys got scholarships that may have not had an opportunity, that were planning on just going to work after high school. And so for me, man, I'm blessed, and now I have another opportunity, so I'm excited about that too.
Awesome. Thanks, Kyle.
Yeah.
That's great, guys. Thanks for sharing that with us. So obviously we're gathered tonight to talk about leadership and character development. Really excited about it. But I'm going to ask you guys to go back a few years, and I want you to talk each about perhaps a coach that impacted you at an early age, and what was something you learned from that person about leadership, whether that had to do with business, life, or sports, or just simply how to conduct yourself as a person. We'll start with Steve.
Okay. Of course, I started back in the days of yore. It was a long time ago. But my first coach in school, my first exposure to football at all was when I went to high school as a freshman. I went to a tiny high school in North St. Louis, Catholic high school called Malach Radigan School. And if you want to trace the evolution of high school, it's now Cardinal Ritter High School. So that's why what you guys would understand about it, it's now Cardinal Ritter. Well, my freshman football coach was a gentleman by the name of Pete Willenberg, and he was about 2 or 3 years out of the Marine Corps, young coach, small high school, and he was our freshman coach, and he had the entire team by himself. He had no assistants. So if you guys can imagine coaching an entire football team with nobody to help you, just you and your players. Coach was enthusiastic, and I learned from him that you make the best of the situation that you're put in. He never complained. He went out there, worked hard every day. He was prepared, very enthusiastic about what he was doing, and we learned a whole lot of football. In fact, there wasn't anybody on our team that ever played any football before. And by the time he was done with the end of the season, we were all really fired up about playing football and wanted to be as good as we could be. But at the time, there weren't the things available to us that are available now to kids for self-improvement. But it was just a great way to get started with a man who knew how to motivate young people and do a little bit of the Marine training in there with it, but never was over the top with it. He knew we were just young kids, but he pushed us and got the best out of it for a group with very limited ability. I also had my varsity coach. I transferred to DeAndres High School, which is closed up now too. So we're in the O'Fallon Park area in North St. Louis. And his name was Tom O'Keefe. And Tom was also a great influence on me. He was a really outstanding football coach. And the thing I learned from him was how to conduct yourself properly as a head coach. You conduct yourself with dignity. Don't take anything personally as far as the player's conduct or things that happened during the course of the season. He was always very professional and treated the players well. So I learned from that. But the other thing I will say, guys, I think is important to point out too, and I'm sure Kyle understands this too. Sometimes you get around coaches that teach you what not to do.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times that's more important than learning what to do.
Yeah.
And I can say this from my playing experience. I was a two-way player in high school. I played some in college, was a bench guy there. I've played on teams that didn't win a game. I played on one team that was undefeated. Okay, so it helped me as a football coach to understand how each player on your team is going to feel in the role that they're in. Some guys are more talented than others. Some guys deserve to play more than others. It's just the way a team is composed. Okay, so what I learned there was that from my college coaches was that you should treat every player with dignity. You should treat every player with respect, because there's other things that these kids can do nowadays than gear up and come to football, and do all the conditioning and other things that are required to get on the field. And so I think it's important that the coach learns somewhere along the line that their players need to be respected, need to be pushed, of course, and applauded to do things. But by and large, you should treat all players with respect and let them know that they are important to your program, that you're glad that they're out there working and playing for you and with their teammates. And I think that's an invaluable thing that a coach can do. So I think we all learn to go from our coaches, but I think Pete Willenberg and Tom O'Keefe helped me the most, and some of my college coaches taught me what not to do.
Great insight. How about you, Kyle?
So I've had some really great coaches. Larry Frost was my high school coach, who is well known and Hall of Fame guy. Scott Wiseman was one of my coaches, and he's getting inducted into the St. Louis Hall of Fame. But I would say my grandfather, Dennis Hicks, who is no longer with us, but he was a great man that lived a disciplined life. He was a Vietnam vet. And so, watching him, playing for him as a kid from the time I was, I believe, 8 or 9 years old, he taught me the value of discipline and just working hard. And that's something that sometimes get lost whenever we're searching and we're trying to make it, and guys want to get to the next level and all of that. We forget about the work that you have to put in to get there. And so he kind of taught me that. I wish he was here to see everything, because I know he'd be really proud of just the way that I go about coaching and the way I approach it. But I take a great deal of pride in just following in his footsteps as a coach. So just in that answer, you can find the values that I kind of took from him and included into my core values: discipline, effort, pride. That's 3 of my 5 in my program. And so he taught me to really live it. I'm thankful for the many drives to practice that we shared when I was a young kid, and he shared those things with me. And I didn't realize at the time, but it stuck with me. And then I can't answer this question without talking about a teacher that I had. And so he wasn't a coach, he was a teacher. His name was Mr. Baker. He was my 8th grade math teacher, and he actually kept me after school one day. And he kept me after school, and he slid me my test, and he said, "What is this?" And I looked down at it. I said, "It's a B." And he had this look of disgust on his face when I told him that it was a B. And he asked me if it was my best. And so, I told him, I said, "No." He said, how long did you study? I told the truth. I said, 15 minutes. And he told me, he said, "You have a voice that can change the whole world." He said, "We don't have time to just put 15 minutes in it. You need to put your all into it, because you're the only person from where you come from that's been through what you've been through, and there's somebody who needs to hear your voice." And so that's something that stuck with me. So I would say my grandfather, and then Coach Baker, or Mr. Baker, were probably the most impactful on me as a coach today.
Wow.
That's great.
That's cool.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Is Mr. Baker still alive?
He is. Mr. Baker, I actually, my first teaching job after being at West, I ended up at Kirkwood, and I ran into him at a PD, and I got to thank him for that, experience. And that was phenomenal for me, because being able to go back and actually thank the person that, gave you those tools, it was incredible for me. So I'm thankful for him, and hopefully I'll send this to him. I send this to his daughter, and he'll enjoy that. So
there you go. That's awesome. That's cool. Let me pull up here. I'm gonna share my screen real quick. You guys see this up here?
Yep.
So next question here is which one of these, so put yourself in the athlete's shoes nowadays. Which one of these 10 strengths of a game changer athlete resonates the most with you if you were an athlete in today's society? Start with Kyle on this one.
So for those 10, I would say, I know I'm breaking the rules, but I would go with both build relationships and harness failure. I don't think you can accomplish anything of significance in this sport or life without real relationships. At some point, even if you're extremely talented or you're an extremely talented team, you'll run into another group that genuinely cares about one another and they have talent. And so you have to care more in order to prepare the way that you'll need to prepare to defeat that team. And that's what I've learned. I've been privileged to be a part of some pretty good runs, and I've coached a lot of talented teams. And you're going to run into somebody that can match you, and something else has to set you apart, and that becomes your character and the relationships you have with one another. So once your group cares about one another, as a coach, you know it. You can feel that they're the group. You can feel it. And then at that point, it becomes, for you not to mess it up. And so I believe building relationships is huge. And then the second part, I say harness failure because, true long-term success is built off our responses to failure. Okay. I try to teach my athletes and my coaches to kind of embrace the challenge of using our failures to become unstoppable. That's a mentality that I have always had, and it allowed me to overcome being born into rough situations, being homeless in my life, and going through things that I had to go through. And it works in all aspects of life if you use your failures to become unstoppable. And so once you've been at the bottom, at that point, nothing else can stop you. And you've been through it all, and you can attack everything without fear, because even if you fail, you understand that, you won't fail that same way again. And so that's a way that I've been able to overcome everything in life. But, that's why now coaching in big games and big moments and stuff like that, I rely on my preparation. And so as an athlete, I think that's important, being able to take the things that you fail at and use them as fuel for your future.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah.
Steve.
Well, I think it's important. One of the ones I noticed here on the 10 strengths that I think is very important is the second one was listed there, committing to growth. I think as coaches, that's one of the things that we have to really constantly promote to our players is growing as a person, whether it be on the field or in the classroom, wherever it might be that you're attempting to do something. You never stay the same. You're either going to be better or you're going to be worse. And I think too many athletes will get to that point where they've been good their entire life, all the way up to high school or up to high school, and they think that they're still going to have a gap between themselves, people that have been trailing them, like in the league programs and other things. And many times they forget that they have to keep working to get better. And sometimes we see that some of these athletes get caught by some of the guys who have worked hard or outworked them, and many times surpass them because of the fact that they've had a better work ethic. So I think as coaches, we need to really impress upon athletes the importance of constantly striving to be better people and better athletes, doing them at the same time, working hard on the field, off the field, being a good person around school, really applying ourselves to our studies, and being a good influence is important. So all of those things are part of growth. And I think as coaches, we're in an ideal position to really emphasize that with our players, so they can take that away from the field every day and take that into their everyday lives and employ that. And of course, these are things, as Kyle knows, these are things they take on with them after they leave you. Hopefully, if you're doing a good job on getting them to commit to growth and improvement, that these are the kind of things they'll learn. And then when they get out into their jobs, when they get out into their family life, their business life, all these different things, they're going to do a good job wherever they're at, because they know that they have to continue to improve in order to be effective at what they're doing. Other things I think are knowing yourself. That one I thought was particularly interesting, is that, many times athletes don't really have a good idea of who they really are. And a lot of times when they come to high school, they're still trying to find out about themselves, who they really are. And I think it's important as coaches that we kind of, always be modeling, good behavior for them and give them ideas of how they can get themselves going in the right direction to be better people and better students. And I think that's a constant responsibility and job that we have. And we have to work on that all the time. But I think many times kids don't know who they are, and it's part of our job as coaches to help them find out who they really are. And with the structure and the demands that we put on them in football, they can learn things about themselves that they can't learn anywhere else. They find out things about themselves they can't find out any other way. And so I think it's an invaluable tool that we have to use. And the best programs are the ones that really emphasize personal growth and really, character building types of things. And I think, those are things, if you don't try to do those things, there's not much of a justification for spending all the money that we spend for football. So those were the two I thought were really not to me.
Both of you guys are killing it right now. Let's go.
A lot of great insights. I'm sure we have some folks tonight that some folks that are emerging from local junior programs, and they will be freshmen this fall, along with their parents. Any particular advice? I mean, I know that the typical summer for a football program is pretty organized, it's pretty regimented, week by week, but any particular advice that you would give to freshmen to get them plugged in at the high school level?
Steve, we'll start with you.
Okay. I think it's always important for freshmen to get involved as quickly as possible when they're coming into high school. And of course, the coaches always go over to the middle schools and the elementary schools to let the kids know, if they sign the kids up, let them know what the summer activities are. And 14-year-olds, many times being the way they are, they're kind of reluctant to get involved in things like this, especially when they don't know a whole lot about them. And so I think it's important that the coach win these kids over and tell them, hey, this is for your benefit, and you're going to learn a lot. And one of the things about it is you're going to make a lot of friends from this. You're going to have more friends after you're done with this than you'd ever had before, and the kind of people you're going to want to hang out with. So I think those are things we can sell kids on, but this is a fact that goes back to what we were talking about in the last question. You have to be constantly trying to improve. You can't improve by sitting at home on the couch watching TV. You can't sit around messing around with your buddies playing video games. You can get better by getting with your teammates, building your team, building yourself up, and making the football team better and learning more about yourself. And so those are things that I think with freshmen are pretty big things. Then I think another thing as far as freshmen go is that freshmen have an idea what they're going to do when they come to the football program. Some don't. And I would tell a lot of the kids, try out for the position you think you can play. You're interested in it, you think you can play it, and let's see what you can do. So you have a camp, and you let do the different positions. And then once that camp goes, it's in the coach's hands to come back and say to the kid, this is where I think you should be. This is your physical abilities are this, and this. We think you're well suited to this. We think you could play a lot if you play this position. Give that some thought. Encourage them to go there. Sometimes kids get bullheaded and want to try to play positions they're not really suited for, and understand that eventually they may have to come to grips with the fact that they're not going to be able to make their goals at that particular position. Since coaches can help guide that. The other thing, again, is I think when they're freshmen is that sell the fact that this is an exciting thing to do, to make a lot of new friends on the football team, and also they're going to make a lot of new friends when they start school. So I think from a social standpoint, it's a great seller. Also makes them a part of something when they start high school, which I think is really valuable.
Love it.
That's a great point. Thank you.
So I kind of agree with that, making sure that, you guys understand that coming in, this is an opportunity for you to build a bond with guys that you'll probably still talk to, and they'll be a part of your weddings and things like that. So, this game has a amazing ability to just tie people together for a long time. Outside of that, just as advice and coming in to try and play at the high school level, I've actually started many freshmen. I started about 5 or 6 this past spring. Kids now are coming in far more ready to play than, we were. When I was at Kirkwood, man, it was, even Jeremy Macklin, who went on to, play at a very high level. He didn't come right in and play as a freshman. So it was kind of unheard of at that time. We weren't ready. But now kids come in and they're ready and they're doing the work beforehand. That said, my tip would be to just listen and be coachable, be willing to work, take care of your academics. Right now I'm dealing with a lot of recruitment stuff, and some of my guys are missing out on opportunities because of their freshman year. And so academics, you have to come in from the beginning and attack. And, there's no easy way around that. It really is unfortunate whenever I have to sit down and I know that a guy will be going somewhere, but he can't go because it's freshman year. So focus on academics and take care of your business in the classroom. Next is be able to handle not being ready to go. So you're going to come in and you want to play right away and you want to, play a certain position. And if you're not ready, it's our job as coaches to be honest with everybody and to be upfront. And so, embrace the challenge and put the work in so that it's undeniable that you're a great asset to your football program. And if you're ready, your coach will play you because ultimately we're trying to win the games. So, coming in, if you want to play right away as a freshman, just put the work in and listen to the coach, and he'll tell you exactly what you need to do to play.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. We'll keep moving on here. So outside of obviously development and training on the field, what's one thing you would encourage an athlete and a coach to invest their time in? We'll start with who went first last time? Was it Steve that went first last time?
Yeah, I went first last.
We'll start with Kyle.
Okay. So athlete again, academics, I'm going to throw that in there. But when we're talking about both, I would say invest in each other. So invest in relationships with your teammates if you're a player. Hang out and do things together that you guys enjoy. Go and just hang out and get to know the guys that you're playing with. It'll make it much tougher for you to fold under pressure when you don't want to let your brother down. It's a lot easier for us to kind of shy away from things if we don't care about them. And so what you find is if you can get your guys to care about one another, then it's pretty tough for them to be beat. Same thing with coaches. And this is something that is valuable in a business that sometimes can seem kind of cutthroat or distant. Man, build relationships with your coaches. Hang out, get to know one another. I do things like I email the wives and I thank them for allowing me to, have their husbands for the amount of time that we have to put into this game, the things that they have to miss, and at the same time, for my coaches, make sure that you're at those little league games for your little ones. That's something that's important to me. So I would definitely say each other, man, invest in each other and hang out and just enjoy the moment and enjoy the process, enjoy that grind together. And, you may win a bunch of games or you may lose a bunch, but if you're together, man, it's going to be tough for you to go down and not enjoy yourself. So, yeah, man, get to know one another.
That's cool. Thanks, Kyle. That's Steve.
Well, I think in addition to the things that Kyle said, which is great, I think another thing that we can help our athletes with is the mental side of football. And I think as a young guy, I know I never gave any thought to anything other than the immediate drill, the immediate practice, getting the day, coming back in the afternoon for the second practice and repeating the same thing over and over again. Now, routine is everything we do in life. We know that. We accept that. But we also have to, I think, you keep a positive mental state of mind about what we're doing and why we're doing it, what we want to get out of this. Okay? And one thing that I think is a great thing about football and many other sports is that many times you get involved in practices and what have you, and it's demonstrated to you without a doubt that there are some people who are better than you with this. And so what do I have to do in order to make myself better? What do I have to do to get up to the next level where I can compete with this guy who's beating my brains out every day at practice? Okay. But then having the mental toughness and the stick-to-itiveness to come back at the next day and be even more determined to do a better job during the practice. So that when eventually you get to the game, you will play a good game of football once you get there. But I think the mental part of it really wears on a lot of people. And they don't think about the big picture. They just think about the immediate thing that they have to do at practice, which is understandable. That's human nature. But I think for our players, there's some big things to be had from participating in sports and in football. And they have to look at the long-term value of what they're doing and understand that the coaches are there to get you to where you need to go. You trust your coaches, know that they're there to help you. They're going to push you. They're going to try to get the best out of you. Understand that they're trying to make you a better player and a better person. That's all part of the mental approach. The coach isn't taking it, making it a personal thing. If he pushes you or corrects you, it's all a part of helping you to be a better person and a better player. I think if you remind athletes of that's important too. I just think any time that we have to encourage athletes to improve themselves, whether it's on the field or in the school building, wherever it might be, we have to say that that's part of the responsibility. It's constantly trying to be better than what you and do whatever it takes to be better than what you are. Keep yourself on an upward mobility for each day if you feel like you're a little bit better after you left the field. And I think we encourage players to do that and expect the best from them. We can get them moving in that direction.
That's great. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks again. The importance of a growth trajectory. Yeah. Both of you have been involved with multiple successful programs. You've tried a lot of things, been a part of different coaching teams. We have some coaches in the audience tonight, of course. Are there any specific, tips that you would provide, best practices on when you're concentrating on developing leadership and character? I know, Kyle, you've talked about, the importance of spending time with each other and building those bonds, of course, but anything else that you would want to convey to our coaches on training and developing leadership?
Yeah, leadership is a skill. That's something that I truly believe. I believe it's something that we can teach. And a lot of times as coaches, and I did this, earlier in my career, if you have a group coming up, you look and you say, man, we don't have any leadership, right? And I think that I've been able to empower myself and empower my coaches and our players by making it a skill and saying that it's something that we can develop. And so we don't come in with the mindset that we don't have any leaders. We come in with the mindset that we're going to create leaders. And so I think that's huge. And so personally, what I've done, I've utilized Game Changer athletes to meet with my leadership council. And that's been huge for me because a lot of the messages that Game Changer athletes have are some of my same messages about character and life. I have a leadership council that consists of my seniors and then all of my leaders of each class. I meet with that group weekly. We have different speakers come in. We discuss team issues, and that kind of gives them ownership, and it teaches them to lead. They're starting to make some of those decisions, within the program on, like, if a guy misses practice, like, we'll sit with my leadership council and those guys will kind of determine what happens. And so I give them that type of flexibility within our program to be leaders. And so, my seniors, they do a word of the week presentation every week during the season, which gives them a chance to determine what the tone for that week's game is. It might be, relentless or integrity, whatever it is. And so they get to decide what the vision of that week looks like. Outside of that, every day at the end of practice, we ask, who is someone who impressed you today and why? And that has been impactful for us because, one, it has our guys, they're looking for guys that are doing the right things. Then two, for a lot of our guys that normally don't get recognized, they're starting to try and do all the little things so their teammates and their coaches will recognize them. And so it just kind of breeds this idea of, working hard and practicing hard because you want to be the one that's called out. And we've had some cool moments where, for instance, Ronnie Perkins, who's going to be going into the draft either tonight or tomorrow, he stood up one day and he called out a freshman who nobody knew who he was, a little 5'3" guy, and just talked about how hard he worked. And so for that kid, that's huge. You have the star of the team talking about a freshman that's 5'3", right? And so that's something that was small. It doesn't cost anything, and you just have to take the time to do it. So there's many other things that we do in the off season with just brotherhood builders and going on retreats and stuff like that, and character building lessons as well. But I'll share the floor with Steve and let him dive in a little bit.
Thanks for the shout out, Kyle.
Yeah.
some of the things we would do at St. Charles West, this is in the days of yore, this is a long time ago, but the things we always felt was that discipline went along with leadership and character as far as your team goes and developing those kind of things. And so one piece of advice I would give to the coaches is always to remind yourself that little things can become magnified into big things. And some of the little things you might do with your team, if you ignore some of those things that you know are important, these things can be magnified, and it erodes your entire team if you don't deal with them over time. One of the things we always try to make a big thing about was making sure that we took care of our locker room. We said that was our home, that's where we live, before and after practice, and to make sure that we keep the locker room up. You don't leave anything sitting around after practice. You don't leave soda cans around. You don't leave tape on the floor. You don't leave things laying around. You leave your equipment out. And we always really stressed keeping our locker room in the neatest possible condition. Okay, so a lot of times we see players running around, everybody had gone, just making sure there wasn't anything left on the floor, just to make sure that they were taking care of business. Just a little thing like that, being neat in the locker room, taking care of things like that, making sure you're looking out for your teammates' equipment if they happen to leave something behind. Okay, all these things are kind of tied together as far as discipline and leadership goes. The other thing we always did was always form partnerships with our teaching staff up in the main building, and keeping in touch with our teaching staff on expectations for our players academically, also in their conduct in class. And the players many times would really be surprised how much we knew about what was going on up in the main building with their classroom activities, and whether they were not doing well academically or if they were having problems in class. We knew about it, and many times they would double penalty. If they got trouble in their classroom, they would also get trouble when they came back downstairs to come out for football practice. They have a little bit of reminders after practice of what they needed to do to be doing the right thing during the school. So those are all things I think that help the team become more disciplined and work together a little bit better. But we always told our guys that you can't be selectively, you can't have a selective look at excellence. If you're going to be good out here, try to be good out here, you have to try to be good in the classroom as well. And so we always wanted our players to have as high standards as possible with their conduct and their academic work up there. And the same thing was during the football portion of their day. You can't separate them. They're actually one and the same as far as we're concerned. So those are all things I think that, it's a consistent message the players are getting. There's no slacking. You have to keep working, and you have try to get better and do the best that you possibly can. So those are just another slant on those types of things.
If my Sykeston players are watching, Coach, what you said about that locker room, my locker room better not ever be dirty.
Little things become big things, right, Coach?
Yeah, hey.
Absolutely. Hey, I love the phrase "selective look at excellence." That's great.
Yep. For the sake of time a little bit, I think you guys kind of answered a little bit of that next question there on what it means to be a great teammate between some of your guys' answers on the other questions. So Nolan, you want to go ahead and ask the next one?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about, I know you've both coached kids that are like, they're worried about getting a college scholarship, right? Like they that's their ticket, and they're stressed about it. Like, what happens if I don't get it? Because they know they want to continue that growth trajectory. Talk a little bit about some advice on how to handle that pressure or anxiety of getting a college scholarship, both for the athlete and their parents.
So I guess I'll go first on this one. So my first tip is just to run your race. Anybody who has any knowledge of track, you lose when you start to look over in that other lane. You slow down. And so just run your race. Our paths are all different, and we must focus on, being the best version of who we are. Don't compare your situation to the next person's. Your situation is your situation. And ask, in the process, how can you be a better student, a better player, or a better teammate? And if you focus on the little things, then big things will happen for you. This kind of goes back to what Coach was talking about, how those little things can become big things. We always end up where we're supposed to be when we're supposed to be there. That's something that anybody that's around me, they know I believe that wholeheartedly. And then trust the process and go all in. on yourself. You got to put the work in outside of practice. You have to watch film, the mental part of the game. You have to do all of those things to earn that opportunity. Everybody isn't given that opportunity to play at the next level, and you worrying about it is not going to help you. So, do all the little things that you can do and control what you control. For my parents, this is huge. Support your student athletes, and be honest with them. That's one thing I always tell my parents from the start is that I am brutally honest with my players and my parents. I will never give them a false sense of hope or anything like that. And what I will tell you is if you work, I never tell you what you can't do, right? But I'm also going to be real with you with where you are and what you need to do. And so in order for my parents to support, be honest with them. If you need help understanding, different things, then reach out to some of us that understand the process, that have been through it. Make sure you can, as parents, control what you can control. Playing time is not something that you can control as a parent, right? But you can control, you can stay on them about their academics, right? There's not too many coaches that are going in and you have a kid that can play really well and he has a 4.3 and you're pulling him out the game. It just doesn't happen, right? So stay on them about their academics. Know the fact that they have to have a 16 core credit requirement, right? Understand those NCAA rules. Register them with NCAA Clearinghouse. Register them with Play NAIA. Get their FAFSA completed. Be aware of ACT test dates, right? If you can afford it, look for different camps that they can go to kind of get some exposure. This is a huge one now. Help set up their social media the correct way, right? Right now, Twitter is one of the biggest parts of recruitment. And there's kids that don't have Twitter accounts or don't have them set up the correct way. So make sure that they have their social media set up the right way to give them that opportunity. Get familiar with Huddle, which is what everybody uses now in order to find athletes, and then make sure that they keep it up to date. So, for parents, those are all things that parents can control and support the athlete in doing just by understanding the process. And if you need any tips, you can, contact me and I'll help you out as well.
That's
well,
great.
Kyle did a great job on that. Of course, he's high tech in the middle of this right now, which many of the things that he talked about there are things that I had never had any, experience with. But say this as far as athletes who want to aspire to the next level, and I think it transcends all the periods of time that we're talking here. Is the fact I think many times the athlete, and I think Kyle will back me on this, doesn't have a realistic view of what their ability actually is. And you have a lot of players who really think that they are, material for the next level when they're really not. And that's a kind of a tough line to walk sometimes because the players are convinced that they are. You have a lineman that comes in and wants to play at Missouri, and they're 6 foot and 205 pounds. You go, son, that's not going to work. That's not going to happen. So you have to find a tactful way to explain that to them. But the main thing is for athletes, if they really want to go on to the next level, is to check out, the level of play that you'd like to aspire to, and then go check out some games at those levels. Whether it's basketball, football, whatever it might be. But look who the players are that are playing. Now, granted, a lot of those guys are mature and they're seniors and they've been at it for 4 extra years, and they're at their best. But I think a lot of kids need to understand that it's not really an extension of high school. And a lot of these young guys, when they go off to college, they walk on or they are fortunate enough to get a scholarship, they're just shocked at the level of play that they face every day in practice. Everybody's a good player, and you've got pressure on every day to perform. And a lot of guys mentally can't they can't cope with that. And I really think that's something that a player has to find out for himself in conjunction with his coach and find out, what is my real ability here? Where do I fit in if I do fit in somewhere on another level? And I think that's important to find that out. And I also think that the parents should go into this anytime their child plays a sport. Should never go into it with the idea that their kid's going to win a scholarship. I mean, if that happens, like Kyle says, if it's meant to be and you've worked at it and you've got what it takes, somebody will find you and you'll have something. But otherwise, it's not something Kyle can't get anybody a scholarship. I can't get anybody a scholarship. The coaches have to view video and have to make evaluations, and it's their decision whether your son gets a scholarship. It's not ours. Okay, so I think that's an important thing to remember. And the parents, as Kyle said, you control the things you could control. You know, control the environment at home. Make sure that your son has you know, what he needs to be successful at school. Try to get some exposure, and you know, go from there. But I think the best thing is realistic expectations and talking to the right people who will know how to direct you to where you need to go. And sometimes it just happens to be that person has to say, you're just not big enough or fast enough, but you know, give it a shot if you want, but don't count on getting a scholarship. I know it sounds like you're raining on somebody's parade, but there's times where you have to just be real with them. You know, that's kind of what I look at it, at least.
Preach it. Love it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Nolan, for sake of time here, let's shorten up some of our questions here.
Yeah, you bet.
I'll do the 10 strengths of a game changer parent. And if you want to do what it takes to be an elite athlete, and then
Absolutely.
I'll do the book one to wrap it up.
Quick audible here.
Share my screen here real quick. So next question here. So we have 10 strengths of a game changer parent. Which from Steve, maybe even from your coaching experience or what you view today, Kyle, you see it on a daily basis, but which one of these 10 strengths, just one of them, that you see parents struggle with, this generation of parents struggle with, or could use some improvement on? We'll start with Steve on this one.
Okay, I'm looking at the one here that says encourage self-advocacy. Okay, and there's a lot of ways you can interpret that. I guess I know there's a little bit of an explanation there, but I think that, to me, that would indicate a parent needs to let their child speak for themselves. Okay, and basically, if your kid wants to know something about their participation or their place on the team or whatever it might be, that I think it's on the child or the kid to talk to the coach about it. Okay, many times, and I'm sure Kyle has dealt with this at times, that a parent wants to be the advocate for the child or for the player, you know, and go around the player talking to the coach, and the parent will call home or email or somehow contact the coach wanting to know why Joey's not playing more, or why he's not doing, you know, why he's not doing better. And I had a lot of that early on in my career, but one thing I tried to do over time with my players was let them know that I wanted to know what they thought. It was important to me what they thought. You know, I said, I know your parents love you. I know their parents want your best for you. I know your parents want to see you on the field, but I'm not coaching your parents. I'm coaching you. And I want to know what you think. And what you think is infinitely more important to me than what your parents think. That's not a diss or anything like that, but I wanted them to know that I wanted them to talk to me, you know, if they had a problem. And so I think that's the main thing. I think that parents many times try to run interference for their kids and try to, you know, get leverage on a coach or somehow influence a coach. Yeah. When really, I think Kyle, you might agree too, is you'd much rather hear it from the kid what they think and feel than what the parent feels. You know, it means a whole lot more to you because that's a kid that's out there busting his butt every day for you and giving you the best he's got. And yeah, you want to level with him. You want to be totally honest with him and tell him, you know, where he stands and what he needs to do to reach his goals. But I think it's better for a kid, and as they get out of school and get older, it's better for them to be able to speak for themselves. And if they have an issue that they want to discuss with a supervisor or whoever it might be, that they do it on their own and go face to face. And I think that's really the best thing to do. And many parents are helicopter parents, and they want to do all this stuff for their kids, and it's really better for their kids to do it for themselves.
That's great.
Preacher.
Yeah. Awesome, Steve.
So yeah, that was awesome, and kind of piggybacking off of that, you know, embracing failure, I would say on there, without a doubt. You know, no one wants to believe that, you know, their kid isn't there yet or isn't ready yet. You Others will try to point to outside factors or motives of the coach as to why good things are not happening quickly for a kid. I think we all struggle with this when we're dealing with our own children, or the majority of people do, unless you've been a football coach. And we love them. We want them to get everything they want out of life. And sometimes it doesn't work out that way, the way we plan it, and so for me, that's life. And I think that's the value of it. There's going to be times in your life that you fail, that you don't get there. And the way that you become successful is by going through that. And so we have to allow them to fail, allow the coaches to hold guys to a standard, because they'll be better men for it, right? They have to learn how to respond to failure. It's one of the greatest skills that you can have as a leader, is being able to fail and go back to the drawing board and do the work that it takes to not fail when you come against that same thing again. And too often that's taken away from our student athletes and their ability to just fail. And like Coach said, I would much rather hear from the kid. And I've had kids come to me and say, Coach, what do I need to do to play? And I can then just be open and honest with them. And I'll tell them, there's been times in practice where a guy said that he felt like he should play. And I said, okay, who should you play over? And I'll go and I'll line those guys up, and you show me that you should play over them. And so at that point, it's done and it's handled. And that's real life. That's real. If I'm better than you, then I got to be able to show it, right? And so your parents coming in and talking to me, it will not change that. I guarantee it. And likewise, I understand I understand the viewpoint of the parent. And so I don't ever hold that against a kid or anything like that. But if you're a parent and you're watching this, man, let your kids fail, let them go through it, be there to support them and help them and push them on what they need to do to get better. But don't try and push them through as what they are, because the reason that they failed is because they need something more. And so push that out of them, and don't try and push who they are in that current space. So definitely embracing failure is one that we can improve on. The kids have not changed. The way that we parent them and the way that we hold them accountable is the thing that has changed. Kids have not changed at all.
Yeah,
I agree.
I love that.
100%.
Absolutely. That's great.
Very,
Thank you,
very
Kyle.
good.
Yep.
I think I just clicked the 100% emoji a few times because I couldn't agree more. And it means a lot coming from both of you guys. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I know Jake's got one more question. I'm going to close with my last question, and you have answered you've answered it in a variety of ways, and I'm going to push you to maybe put a bow on this and answer it in one more respect. So we started talking tonight about the fact that the NFL draft is in progress. Literally, as we speak, we're getting notifications of who went first, second, and third. What does it take, in your opinion, more than anything, to be an elite athlete in the game of football?
Man. So I'll answer. If we're being honest, elite guys don't come around all that often. They just don't. And we throw that idea of being an elite athlete around so much, and really there's not that many that exist each year. And so there's a few ways to tell. First, one, are they a great player? Like, do they pass the eye test? When you look out, they're making plays, they're doing everything, that's the first thing. The next thing I would say is, do they have intangibles? When we're talking elite, you're talking the best of the best. And that's not just, do you stand up against the guys that are at your high school, or are you great against the guys that are in Missouri? That is, are you the best of the best? Can you go and play with anybody? And so you have to have intangibles. You have to have, size is going to be important, speed, things like that. And if you don't have them, you have to work on them or find ways around them. There's things that you can do mentally that make you play at a higher level. And so a lot of guys don't understand that you can study the game and you can play at a much higher level. It's the way that I got to play at the next level. It's by studying film, and I could always know what was coming, right? Then, are they always at everything that's football related? Are they showing up? There's guys that think that they're great, that you know, I'm a really great player, but they miss practice and go to work. You know, I've never coached an elite player, and I've been privileged enough that I've coached probably 4 to 5 of them, right? I've never had one of those guys tell me that they were going to miss practice because they were going to work or they were doing anything else. When it came to football, everything else was on hold because that was what they were and what they did and how they lived, right? The other part of that is, do they put in the work on their own on the outside of practice, right? We got a bunch of guys. I remember being in high school and they moved Jeremy Macklin up and we were all upset. At the time, we all thought we were as good as Jeremy Macklin and we were upset. But every single day when we left practice, Jeremy Macklin was outside practicing for another hour and a half, 2 hours. He was elite. He was different from us. We would rather go home and play video games or go and do other things. And so he put the time in and the work and he earned it. And he did it outside of practice. And that's what set him apart. And when he played on Fridays, you can see that, right? You can see that he had practice more than everybody else on the field. It was obvious, okay? Do they take care of their academics? Don't tell me that you're elite and you're sitting there with straight Fs. You're not. You know, there's a lot of guys that are working other jobs, you know, that will tell you how elite they were in sports, right? And never got to play at the next level. If you're elite, you'll get to play at the next level because you'll take care of your academics. That's when we're talking about being elite. When you play against the best competition on your schedule, do they show up every single time? All right. Good players, they show up when you're playing against the teams that you should beat, right? And they go out and they have an amazing game. But then if you play a team that's really talented, they disappear and they look just like everybody else. And so elite player, no matter who you're playing, no matter what the score is, if you're out, man, they still do their part. They still do their job the entire game and they step up and they're the biggest when those lights are on, right? So, you know, I'm when it comes to that elite, man, I don't throw that around too much. But those guys are your elite guys. They're constantly looking for ways to improve, even when they're already better than everybody else. And if you get to coach some of those guys, man, you consider yourself blessed. I've been blessed, man. Ronnie Perkins, I could have drew up anything and he would have blew up a play, and I look like a genius. So those guys don't come around very often, and be thankful when you have them. Send something to Sykeston, please.
There it is. That's awesome.
Yeah, you covered it all there. But I'll put one slant on that is a little bit different. And I got this from a guy by the name of Mo Lattimore. I don't know if you ever ran across him, Kyle, but he was a recruiter for K-State for a long time, Kansas State, and he coached assistant coach for a long time. But he was with Bill Snyder at Kansas State, and he was recruiting one of our defensive backs. And he was not the biggest kid, but he had some talent. He was a good player. And so I said, well, Coach, are you concerned about his size? And he goes, tell you what, Coach, he said, at Kansas State, we look for guys who show up on film. We look for guys who make plays. Now, they might be an inch or two shorter than what we'd like, or maybe, 10 pounds lighter, or maybe their 40 time may not be quite as fast as somebody else's. But we feel like that if we can recruit players that make plays, we can improve them physically when we get them here. We're going to get them faster. We're going to get them stronger. We're going to do everything we can to maximize their physical ability. But if a guy doesn't make plays, there's not a whole lot we can do to help him out.
Nope.
Those playmakers are special types of people, and those are the kind of guys we look for. We may not get all the 5-star guys, but we get the guys that try to make plays, and we recruit those guys as much as we can. But on another thing, guys, real quick here, I know there's a question about a book that's influenced you over your career, over time. I have one book I'd like to recommend, and I know I can't see you guys because my screen's gone, but can you see this on your screen there?
Yeah, raise it up a little bit.
How's that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, there it is.
I read this book when I was in graduate school. It's no longer in print, but I know there's some copies that you can buy used, and I saw it on Google. There's a number of copies. This book revolutionized my whole look at players' psychology and what they think about when they compete. And he was a sports psychologist at UCLA back in the 70s and 80s. One of the most unbelievably helpful books I've ever read in my coaching career. So if you get a chance to get hold of this book, it'll help you.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. Kyle, what about you on a book that you'd encourage?
Yep. What Drives Winning by Brett Ledbetter. That book honestly changed my entire career and my mindset on what's important in coaching. It basically tells you that while talent is a key piece of the puzzle, it is not the important piece. Character is. A talented ball club will lose to a talented ball club with character. A talented ball club that has character can only lose to a team with more character. And so since I've started focusing on building men and less on winning, I've won more, right? And so a lot of us have the issue that we focus on, all right, we need to make these schematic changes and we need to, find these guys, and you focus on the winning and then you just lose, right? But when you start focusing on building young men and building relationships, the winning becomes a byproduct of you doing those things. And
it's amazing how many games you win doing it that way, Coach.
Oh man, it's incredible. And so I'm just thankful for coming across that book, and then being able to go to it was a full day conference, and it was a bunch of people that have just won at every level, from high school to college to the elite, NFL and different, sports. Just some of the best people, Coach K, just tons of people speaking, and they were all winners. And what I saw was that they were focusing on other things besides the winning, right? And so for me, that changed my approach to coaching, and it also has allowed me to understand the process. So when we go 1-3, but I see the wins that we're having behind the scenes, I know that we're headed in the right direction, and I know that the wins will come. And so we can block out the noise that everybody's telling you, oh man, that you guys were supposed to do this and that. And we just block it out and we keep working, right? And so, my motto is to keep working. And as long as you have that at the forefront, man, you can never lose.
Yeah. Wow. You guys killed it.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you.
Well, I know one thing for sure. I'm a Sykeston Bulldog fan.
Yeah, that's right.
I love it.
I love it.
I love it.
Man, we're excited to work with you guys down there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So.
I think Brett Ledbetter owes me a little bit of royalty after that plug for that book, man.
That's awesome. Hey, well, guys, I appreciate your time on a Thursday night here and giving us some wisdom. And Nolan and I are excited to dissect this video recording and make some cool clips. And Kyle, you want me to send it to you? I will, man. And Steve,
I'll
if you
post
want a copy of it, I can send it to you as well.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Okay, we'll take care.
You.
Yep. See you
Coach
guys.
Stahl, take care. Thank you.
All right, Cal. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
See you. Bye-bye.
See you guys.